This recorded in this session. And I'm going to turn it over to Roger here. He oversees the grant program, and he's going to go through some slides here to kind of hopefully answer some of your questions. If you do have questions, please put it down in the chat. Also, when you do pose your question, can you please let us know what department you are from? We just would like to know all the departments that are present here today. So Roger, I will let you take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope that you're starting to figure out the small equipment grant process if you haven't already done it before. We're here today to try to help alleviate some of those questions and some of the problems you guys are having with that. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. I believe we have myself, JC Foltz as well. We have Alan Ronnie Wickenhauser, and Jody Schrage, I believe, as well as Dale Simpson. So hopefully, if I can't answer your questions, hopefully everyone else will be able to answer your questions. So,
and Roger, we also have Lee Buxton on the line if anybody has any in-first questions too.
I totally forgot about Lee. So
yeah,
he's
That's
definitely a necessity for you guys and us. So
and before we get into the slides, Roger, can you just see what departments we have joining us at this point?
Sure. I believe that they were going to log into the chat. So let me take a look here and see what we got. Looks like we got Brandon Lanier, correct? Conan King, Christina Brown. Let's see who else we have here.
If you guys could just list your department in the chat, that would make it easier for us. If you guys, thank you guys. Just while you're down there, just put it in the chat, and then I'll just write it down. So I'll take care of that, Roger.
All right, sounds great. Again, thank you everybody for attending today. Hopefully we can alleviate your questions, and it lessens it on our end, and it lessens it on your end if we can do it in these WebEx meetings. So let's go ahead and get started. Do we have quite a few people in attendance already, JC, or should we give it a few more minutes?
I think we're good, Roger. Go for it.
Okay. All right. So we just updated this. Our slideshow was done from last year. We have tried to update it with current issues and current questions that we have. So this year's small equipment grant for FY25, the application period was open on August 5th. 2024, and it's open till October 1st. We have $26,000 grant award is the maximum that we offer. $4 million is available this year. I believe it was $4 million last year as well for 2023. And again, it was $26,000 grant award is the maximum that you can receive. Last year we had 168 grant awards. 417 applications were received, and roughly $9.5 million funding requests that we had last year. So as you can see, it is a popular program, and we have a lot of need with departments throughout the state. So just a rough idea here is an overall map of where the awardees were done last year. Again, there was 168 of them that were awarded. And $4 million worth of grants that were given out last year. So as you can see, it was pretty well spread throughout the state fairly evenly. That's just the way it worked out, but that's good to see that we can try to help as many departments as we possibly can. Grant information. If you guys aren't aware of where you can find it, you can go to our website at the Fire Marshal's website, sfm.illinois.gov, go under grants and loans, or you can click the scan this, and it'll take you right to our website. Okay. We also, JC is very good about putting things out on our social media pages as well, like these webinars. He's very good at keeping you guys updated. So if you ever need to know something as far as like if something's open or whatever, he's very good about putting that on there. So you can also go to our social media pages as well. Thank you for doing that, JC, by the way. Grant application tips and info. You must fill out all sections in the application completely and accurately. Do not skip or omit any information being requested. If a section does not apply, enter in \A for not applicable. Do not leave anything blank. Okay. We cannot process your applications if it's not filled out in its entirety, or if you do not at least note that it doesn't apply to you. Okay. So we will not be able to process it, and we will not be able to consider you if you do not fill it out in its entirety. All right. 5 reasons applications fail. Number 1 reason, NIFRS reporting issues. Requires NIFRS reporting compliance 2 years prior to the application. Compliance list available on OSFM website. Compliance list is updated monthly. 3 main reasons NIFR issues causing non-compliance. Failed to import, third-party software issues, failed to file a no activity report, or did not verify report was valid. I am going to let Lee touch on this a little bit. Are you there, Lee?
I am. Good morning, everyone. One thing I wanted to point out to everyone is that listed on your applications, the information for applications, the deadline is October 1st. So that means that you have to have your compliance through the end of September submitted. Just like we always do, we put it out on the website every month. After the middle of the month, the compliance reports, because we ask that you get those in as soon as possible after the first of the month. So make sure that you get your September incidents imported also, because we're going all the way up till the end of September for compliance this time. A couple things on the issues. If you have a third-party vendor, can you still hear me? I'm having an issue with my headset here. Hold on a second. Okay. So you should be getting a log file back from your third party. When you import it in, you put your email address in there. You should be getting reports back, and you can see if your incidents were imported or not. The other thing that we have a big issue with smaller departments, if you do not run any calls for the month, you need to go in and do no activity report at the end of the month. It's very simple. You just create an incident. You put in 7 zeros for your incident number. The last day of the month is the date, and right above the incident number is a little box that says no activity. You check it, and then you're just reporting to IMFRS that you had no incidents to report. We see a lot of people that think that they don't have to report if they didn't run any calls. That's how we keep track that, everybody's keeping up on making sure that they're reporting whether they ran any incidents or not. Also, you can log into your IMFRS account at any time and search your incidents. You can look them up by the year. You just click invalid. It'll show all of your invalid reports. You can click on them and click view errors. It will show you what's wrong with them to correct those. I encourage all of you to check and make sure that your stuff's on there. Like I said in the beginning, we email out at the middle of the month compliance reports to everyone who is a registered IMFRS user. And then JC also posts that on our website under our IMFRS tab, which is under I am a fire department. So there are multiple ways for you to check to make sure that you're in compliance. You can also email us at IMFRShelp@illinois.gov, and we'll check that for you. I think
Yeah,
that's
when you go to
everything,
look for
Roger.
those compliance reports, if you go to the home screen of the page and you just hover over IMA, and then you can slide down to fire department firefighter, and you'll notice the InFirst tab has the ability to open up more. You can find support guides, verifying successful reporting, compliance, and statistics. So there's multiple things that you can find in the InFirst tab, and also the InFirst help information is located there as well for you.
Right. And there's references also. I appreciate that, JC. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Lee. If we have any more questions, we'll probably revert back to Lee here if we have any more NIFRS questions later as the presentation goes on. Thank you, Lee. Five reasons applications fail, number 2. Okay. Equipment identification, tier 1 as opposed to tier 2. Tier 1 is higher priority and you have a better chance of receiving those requests. Okay. Tier 2 may be awarded, but not until after all eligible tier 1 applications have been considered. Okay. So it's not that you're not going to be eligible for tier 2 items, but the chances of getting to tier 2 items are probably not great because there is such a need for tier 1 items. Okay. But you are welcome to request them, but chances of reaching tier 2 are probably fairly slim. Okay. 5 reasons applications fail, number 2. Still about the tiers. Tier 1, some examples. It's not an all-inclusive list. Obviously, the list is quite long and it continues to grow the more things that people present to us that they're requesting. But like personal infection control items, examples like N95 masks, surgical masks, face shields, gowns, medical gloves, goggles, boot covers, antimicrobial wipes, infection control kits, UV disinfectant lights, firefighting safety equipment examples, PPE, flashlights, turnout gear, washer and dryers, which the base is also considered part of that. So if any of you are wondering, is the base for the washer and dryer also accepted? Yes, it is. Self-contained breathing apparatus, handheld radios, cylinder tanks, fill stations, thermal imaging cameras. Pretty much the tier 1 and tier 2s are reviewed by our exec staff, and they will be made. The determination will be made by the exec staff before it goes to committee for review. Okay. Some other things like EMS response equipment, you have AED machines, cardiac monitors, backboards, power cots, things of that nature. Vehicle rescue equipment examples, extrication tools, cutters, spreaders, things like that. Airlifting bags, halogen bars, and reciprocating saw blades. Okay. Just a few examples. And like I said, the lists are quite lengthy anymore. So feel free to reach out to me or, if you have any questions, I will try to find an answer for you as far as if what something is considered tier 1, tier 2, or if it's not considered at all. Okay. 5 reasons applications fail. Tier 2 examples. Base station radios, apparatus equipment, soap for the washers and the extractors, base station radios. There's quite an extensive list. Typically, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Dale, typically tier 1 things are things that are typically geared towards individual safety of the firefighters in the field, as well as, even people we're trying to rescue. So tier 2 items tend to be things that may be more fastened permanently to a vehicle or a station, fire station. They're not necessarily more geared towards individual safety of the firefighters in the field. Is that correct in the way I understand that, Dale?
Yeah, that's a pretty good thumbnail. The thing is, if you have a question about something, reach out, because with the advancements in technology and things, there are things we get many requests about, is it tier 1, tier 2, or would it be considered? And if you can send us information, product information, we do look at stuff year round. We have people asking about stuff. Some stuff covered, some stuff isn't. Roger's right. If it's going to be permanently attached to a rig or in the station house, probably not. And there are exceptions though. But if you don't know, get in touch with us. If you've got a specific item, send us the information on it. We'll look at it. I think this year we actually added a couple because the people did send in what the item description was. We've also not accepted some because the item description sounded good, but it was hospital based. It wasn't out in the field based. So the best thing is if you don't know, ask. We're here.
Thank you, Dale. Is there anything else you'd like to add about tier 1 and tier 2?
Now, like Roger said, there is that the tier 1 items will be the ones that most of the grants, can't remember a time where we ever even went to tier 2. It's just the option if there's money left over after the tier 1. And you can see from the 9.5 million requested out of and got 4 awarded, you want to get in that tier 2 lane for things that you need.
Thank you, Dale. All right, to move on here. 5 reasons applications fail. Reason number 3, all required signatures are not on the application. The application must be signed by the fire chief. And if a fire protection district president and secretary of the board of trustees, if a municipal fire department, the mayor and city manager, clerk are the highest elected local official, ensures all officials above the preparer are aware of the application. This is very important. And every year I have people complaining that they get rejected for not having the correct signatures. Okay. The reality is it is spelled out very specifically on the application what signatures we need. So please pay very close attention to that. Second of all, if you are a dual title, let's say you are the chief and then you are also the president of the fire protection district, you have to indicate that. We cannot read your mind. I cannot give you credit for the chief signing it and the president signing it if you don't indicate you're also the president. Okay. So the reality is we have to have you identify if you have multiple titles. Okay. If you hold multiple titles, we do not want to exclude anybody. We want everybody to be eligible and we want everybody, well, we want to try to help everybody we can throughout the state. But the reality is we have to have these things so everybody involved is aware. So not just the chief's aware, but the people above the chief are aware he's applying for it and vice versa. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. Please do not put secretary so-and-so because the reality is I don't know if that is the chief secretary, the mayor's secretary, or if it's the secretary of the board or of the city council. So please indicate what level this person is so that we don't have to reach back out to you and get clarification. We cannot accept the secretary of the fire chief. We have to have the secretary of the board. Does that make sense? Or is there any questions that you guys have on the signatures?
Roger, if I could just note one thing, and maybe you.
Sure.
If you don't have all the signatures, we will not call you. Your application will just be rejected. We receive usually 400 applications, and we don't have time to be going through every single application and making sure that everybody's, signed the way they should have signed, especially since I would say 90% of the applications we get come in at the very last minute. So just make sure that when you're sending these applications, you double and triple check that you have all the required signatures, because I don't want you to have your application rejected for something as simple as a signature.
Good point, Ronnie. Thank you.
Hey, Roger, this is Dale.
Yes.
Yeah, to back up what Ronnie's saying, many of you have been through not only our grant process, but federal grant processes. And this is typical. You got to fill it out correctly or it loses in the first round of review. That's the way that these get culled down from the national level. down to us, down into local grants. When the instructions tell you to do something, you need to do it, because that'll be the first thing that's taken out.
Believe me, we would love to be able to contact every one of you guys when there's problems with your application, but it's just not feasible when we're dealing with anywhere from 400 to 500 applicants every year. So the reality is, just make sure that you've got those signatures and make sure you've got the correct people signing them. And the reality is, we need those signatures at time of submission. We cannot accept it later. I've had people come back on appeal and try to offer up the correct signatures at that point. They will not be accepted at that point. Like Dale says, and Ronnie said, they have to be there at time of submission. Okay. Okay, let's move on here. 5 reasons applications fail. Number 4, 2 most recent years of budget information incomplete, and did not submit the 2 most recent years of ordinances, did not provide all the information needed, sections with no entries or no non-applicable. Information does not match other entities on the application. Okay, we have been in the past not as critical on making sure we get the ordinances, but we do need you to complete your budget information the last 2 years on your application. If you only submit 1 year of budgets, we will have to deny it. Okay. If you do not supply the ordinances, which we are trying to tell people as we go that we do need the ordinances this year, the appropriation ordinances, just showing the votes and how they voted and they approved your budgetary issues and your appropriations, we will have to also reject it. Okay. The ordinances, we have not been as strict on that in the past, but we are trying to collect those this year. And I am following up with departments that are not submitting them with the application, because a lot of departments are not aware we do need those. Okay. As far as information goes on the application, if you don't tell me how many square miles your department covers, I cannot process your application. If you don't tell me how many people, the population that you cover, again, we cannot process your application. So like Dale said, please make sure you fill out everything in its entirety. If it does not apply, just put non-applicable in there. Okay. So that we can help you try to process your application and keep you in the running for the grants. All right. Reasons applications fail. Number 5, equipment justification is missing or incomplete. Please indicate what you are looking to purchase. Please indicate what it is for. Give a justification. Your old equipment is out of date and is no longer safe. Whatever the case may be, just make sure you justify why you're needing this new equipment. Okay. Tell your story, why you need it, increase in calls, why, how come, failed or broken, out of date, unsafe equipment, uncommon events occurred, depleting resources, whatever the case may be. Just make sure you plead your case. Okay. Grant information and assistance. OFM will be offering 2 more virtual information sessions through WebEx for you to ask questions about your grant preparation and submission. Each session is about an hour. The next one will be Saturday, September 14th at 1600 hours or 4 p.m. Monday, September 16th at 7 p.m. or 1900 hours. Okay. So if you guys have any more questions, and ladies, feel free to reach out to us or try to attend one of those other sessions. We would love to have you if you still have additional questions. Okay. Grant information assistance. Go to the OSFM homepage. Current focus, small equipment grant application Q&A session. Choose more information and links to the session. Follow the instructions. There's a code there. You can scan that, and that will take you directly to our website. Okay. Any questions or concerns? Contact OSFM. Applications, you can reach out to myself. My number's there, as well as my email address. I will not tell you I have every answer because I do not. But if I do not have the answer for you, I will try to get you an answer as soon as I possibly can. So feel free to give me a call or send an email. I will try to help you with it as quickly as possible. Okay. NIFRS questions, reach out to Lee Buxton, who you spoke to earlier. His number and email is also there. Okay. NIFRS programs, your NIFRS data must be current to be eligible for the grant and loan program. OSFM constantly is working to improve statewide data via increased quality assurance reviews, contacting departments to refine and data related to fire, death, cause, and origin, reminders to non-compliant fire departments, developing scheduling NIFRS training. Microsoft Edge is the recommended web browser. We're here to help. Send your questions to the NIFRS help email there. Lee is definitely here if you have any questions or need him, and he also has someone who assists him with that program as well. So definitely feel free to reach out if you have any problems with your NIFRS reporting. Okay. All applications are accessed at nifrs.fema.gov. Microsoft Edge is a recommended browser. Bulk importing from third-party reports. Lee, I'm going to let you touch on this again. Obviously, you're more up to speed on the NIFRS reporting than I am. So,
okay, yeah. So Microsoft Edge is the recommended browser. We have found that Google and some of the other ones will make the system act weird. This web address, emperors.fema.gov, is where you access the your Emperors account. You log in there. That's where you would go when I was talking about checking on your invalid reports, and you can see your reports that are in there. The one thing I wanted to touch on that I was talking about earlier on your third-party software, when you're importing, I know that it says uploaded successfully. That only means that the system has accepted your file. It has not processed it yet. You'll get an email from this Empress bulk import from dhs.gov with a zip folder, and that has your log files in it that tells you how many of those incidents were accepted and how many were rejected. So make sure and follow up with those to make sure that your stuff was imported successfully. Like I said, we put out those compliance reports every month around the middle of the month. And so you've had everyone in this round has had since the beginning of August to get their stuff caught up. So we'll be looking at everyone's compliance to see if there's any anomalies, but we're not going to have a grace period after the applications close for people to get caught up on their reports.
thank you, Lee. Let's see here. I believe that's about it as far as our presentation goes. We can open it up definitely to questions, though. I'm sure everyone has a lot of questions. We seem to get a lot on the fiscal side of this. So let's see here. So anybody that has any questions, I think we can open it up. And if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions or drop them in the chat there, and we can try to address them the best we can. Okay.
Hey, Roger, I got something I'd like to cover real quick. This is Alan.
Yes, sir.
So one of the things, for those of you that don't know me, I started here December 1st last year, and I was a fire chief, and I put in for grants all the time, and I was terrible at it. So I'm the worst advice on the planet for writing grants, apparently. But one of the things that I didn't fully understand about the fire marshal's office is everything we do, we have to follow the rules because we get audited. And then if we don't follow our own rules, that shows up in an audit report that goes to the governor, and we have to answer those questions during our appropriations hearing or in front of politicians. So that's why the rules are very important to us. It's not a lack of empathy or sympathy. It's the fact that we don't want to have to answer those very difficult questions, and we have to be consistent so that everybody has an equal opportunity. You know, every grant is a competitive process. It would be phenomenal if you could just put in for the money and get it. And but obviously that's not our system. But I don't know that I fully understood that before I walked in the door. So I just kind of wanted to point that out and just let everybody know that we want to help, but we have to follow the rules. That's the most important thing.
Alan, if I could just piggyback on what your statement just now. This is Jim Rivera, State Fire Marshal. To Alan's point, every year, we have to sit through appropriations, and we're constantly taking grenades from, the politicians. Now, I bought into education, training, supporting not, just your local, but all fire departments within the state and country, believe it or not. So, my ask from, the fire departments and the chiefs and just anybody in general, if you happen to know, somebody in your area that is, a legislator, legislative person, try and get them to lean towards, appropriations and supporting our programs. As you can see, we almost had 500 applications. I like to fill them all. But with the money that they, allocate for us, or that, when we request and they grant us, it's still not enough. I'm looking at the amount that, was requested, a little bit over $9 million. I'm going to talk this over with my staff, but I like to maybe make a request for around 10 million for, for the future. And hopefully all these, requests that get submitted are fulfilled. This way, it makes the competitive process a little easier, sometimes a little quicker. But we do have to follow the rules. It's not that we want to, not give you the money. There's plenty of, instances and opportunities where people had a chance to get the money and just for one reason or another didn't follow through on a signature or something to that effect. But myself as a state fire marshal, I want you guys to get this money. I asked for this money for that reason. So please just, if you can help us in any way, shape, or form, we'd appreciate it because it ends up going back to you guys. Thanks.
And Roger, I'm starting to get a couple questions coming in. Do you want me to move on to the questions?
Yeah, go ahead, JC. And
Okay,
see
I
there's
can
a
just
couple,
open the
so go ahead.
floor. This one looks like a budget question anyway, so this might be good for Ronnie to answer this one. Morgan asked, I have a question about the budget portion. They've changed where things get put in, such as insurance costs and maintenance to the building. So I'm not sure where to put those items. Ronnie, that might be a good question for you.
Okay, let me get the application open, so I have it sitting in front of me.
And if anyone else has questions too, while Ronnie's opening up the application, if you want to put them in the chat room, I'm just going to work my way down the list here with these questions, and we can get to your question as well. So if you just type maybe a part of your question in down here, then I can start addressing the question. If you have any follow-up on that question, you can always unmute yourself. So if you want to start putting some of your questions in the chat room, then we can get to those as well.
And Roger, if you want to open the application and share that, it might be helpful so that when Ronnie's talking about the different fields, he can be referencing that and they can see that visual.
Will do.
So-
Hold on just a second.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Trying to think, other insurance costs should probably just go in miscellaneous, and then building maintenance also put in miscellaneous.
Morgan, does that answer your question, or do you need any more follow-up on that question?
And you can unmute yourself if you have something that, a little bit more specific question that you have. We want to make sure that we're addressing each question and before we move on.
And I can unmute you too. Or is that everything good? You're actually unmuted right now. Or is that, does it help answer the question?
Yeah, most of ours, we're a small department, so most of ours are just the regulatory things, insurances, maintenance. And it's like, well, there's no spot for insurances this year. So I was a little concerned of leaving out, $3,000 or $4,000 of the budget that we have because there's not a spot for it.
Sounds good. Just wanted to make sure we got you the answer you're looking for. All right. Next question we have, Ronnie, is total number of annual responses allows only 2 responses, fire and EMS. Which category should MVA be placed? That's the first question from Brandon. The second question is budget information. Which fiscal years should be used, 23-22 or 22-21?
The 2 most recent. So if you have an approved budget for whatever the most recent approved budget is, and then the year before that one, so the 2 most recent. And then the first one I can't answer. Where the responses should go, I don't know that answer. That's more of a Dale or a Lee question.
I would say that you would list them under EMS because they're a 300 code call.
Does that answer your question for you, or do you need some follow-up on that? You can unmute yourself if you need to. Brandon.
Nope, we're good. Thank you.
Next question I have is from Bruce. With respect towards tier 1 items under extrication, you reference spreaders and cutters. Are rams and vehicle stabilization systems / struts included in tier 1? Know who would like to answer that one?
This is Dale. Yeah, the stabilization equipment that's included, and the rams and everything, yes, that would be included.
Bruce says great, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? If you'd like to unmute yourself and ask that question, you can, or like I've been saying, you can always put it down here in the chat, which is on the right-hand part of your screen next to participants.
For signatures, if we do not have the Adobe e-sign, can we just give it to the trustees and then scan it in to send it in after they hard sign it?
Yes, that would be fine. Just as long as we have the signature on there. Honestly, I don't know how everyone else feels. I'd prefer to have a hard signature anyways. So yes, I'd prefer you guys to get them signed and then scan them in. Just send them back in a PDF. And if you want to email them, you can. If you want to mail them, you can. Whatever's easiest for you.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Don't be shy. You can just unmute yourself and ask the question if you'd like. Hey, Roger, you're talking about the signatures. Do you want to show on the application kind of where those signatures are and kind of review that one more time? I know that's been
Sure, we can do
a
that.
bane of existence in a lot of folks and some applications that have been thrown out. So I don't know if you wanted to go over that one more time for some folks because we've had a couple of signature questions.
Yeah, as you can see on the application, everybody can see the application, correct? On the application, if you notice it does say up top, 3 signatures are required to submit this application. These signatures must include, and it spells out who we're actually looking for. As far as the signatures go, like I said earlier, please make sure if you have a dual title, please make sure you indicate that to us. We've had problems in the past where someone may be on the board of trustees as well as a member of the fire department. And so it may cover 2 of the signatures, but unless it's brought to our attention, there's no way for us to know that. So they have pretty much spelled out who they're looking for as far as signatures go. No, it cannot be the assistant chief. It has to be the chief. We've had that happen quite often. It's just, we need everybody involved to be aware that you're applying for this, which is why we asked for these particular positions to sign this.
Roger, to
Yeah.
make it easier on us so that we actually see 3 signatures.
Uh-huh.
If you serve dual roles, I would probably ask you to sign it twice with each of those roles, just so that we see 3 signatures and don't accidentally say you only had 2.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah, so if you could, as Ronnie said, if you have dual roles, could you please just go ahead and sign it 2 different places and indicate your dual title in each of those places that way?
I mean, we can see the dual title, but just it's obvious to us if we have 3 signatures on it.
Correct. I agree.
I just don't want to make an inadvertent error.
Does anybody have any questions or any issues with the signatures, or have you in the past that you want to ask a specific question about that? It's something that we seem to have a lot of problems with each year. So, I mean, if anybody has a question, please feel free to ask, because it is kind of confusing at times.
Roger, this is Dale.
Yes, sir.
You want to speak to how the process works, that this is all reviewed blind with redaction?
Sure. Yes, that's probably a good idea. Typically, when you submit your application and the ending period has passed, we begin to review applications. We check to make sure all things are filled out accordingly. We check for signatures. We start to log your information for scoring purposes. Administration will then, the exec staff will also review tier 1, tier 2 requests, so we know what you're requesting before it goes to committee. We then will, there are different formulas basically that we're reviewing. The information you provided, population, square mileage you're covering, and other things that determine who is going to go to committee. So it is not a process that we actually know who's who. When committee receives the applications for review, it is a blind process. We have redacted information for off each app, so the committee does not actually know who's requesting the items. We also take off anything that may give them an indication of the geographical area in the state that this request is coming from. We want it to be as a fair process as we can as far as reviewing goes. So the reality is it is a blind process, as Dale says. One other thing that we do review before it goes to committee is, have you received the grant in the past? In the past, we have looked at if you received it in the last year or the last cycle, or two that you're not considered before anybody who hasn't. It has been brought to our attention that administrative rules actually require that if you've ever received a grant, anybody who has not received the grant has preference over someone who has received it in the past at any time. So this year we will be looking at that a little more strictly. It does not mean you will not be considered for the grant. It's just we have to consider any departments that have never received it first. Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that as well. Because like I said, in the past, it's been policy that we've just looked at the last cycle. But it has been brought to our attention. We have to look at anybody who's never received it first and foremost. We are trying to help everyone in the state as much as we can, as the fire marshal said earlier. And we want to try to continue to help everyone as much as we can. So once it goes committee, committee has guidelines that they're evaluating it on. I think part of it's need, and I think part of it's need of the products that they're requesting, and part of it is financial need. They actually blindly review these things, and that is how they are actually selected. So if you have any fears that it's done based on who you know, it is not the case at all. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to that assessment of how we kind of evaluate those? Or
Roger, I do have someone with their hand up.
Yeah.
Darren has their hand up. Darren, if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, you may go ahead.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Darren Beckman. Two questions. One was a follow-up question to the I believe Morgan put that in the chat, and I did not hear the answer to like where your insurance would go in your budget portion. That line item's been removed. I didn't catch the answer to that one. That's my first question.
Miscellaneous.
you said that would fall under miscellaneous, Ronnie?
Oh, miscellaneous. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Good enough. And then secondly, back to the total number of calls, fire versus EMS, as I'm sure Lee Buxton and several know that with NIFRS, it's dealt with NIFRS. You have several different categories, your hazmat calls fall into 400s, your standbys or your dispatch canceled en route calls. Where do we lump all those extra calls? Do we lump them into fire? I mean, I understand the 300 would be appropriate to go in EMS, but where do we lump all those others into the fire category?
Yes, that's correct. Just put them all, the rest of them under fire services. That's just services by the fire department. That includes your service calls and everything.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Darren. And sorry, didn't see your hand clicker.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Other questions? Please ask away. Now's your time to talk to these folks.
Roger,
Yes, sir.
can you, yeah, you're right there. So can you scroll up just a little bit?
Yes, sir.
So everybody sees the 5A and 5B that we're looking for your revenue information. And I just got a question about this morning. So if you don't get anything from a tax levy, skip 5A as it says below, as it says here, and go to 5B. If your source of funds is just from like an allocation from the city's general fund, put that down here as the revenue source, city general fund, and then put the amount that you get from the city general fund, which I'm assuming should match whatever your budget amount is.
I just put a link in the chat for every department that's on here. Please let me know if you can't see the file that I put in there. It's all of you guys' compliance reports. Some of you have some missing reports. Some are just from August, which we're already 9 days into September. But I just wanted to let you know so that you guys can get caught up.
So there's a question from Dan. Do we include fundraisers into the revenue source?
Yes. You can just put fundraisers and then whatever the total amount is. I don't need to know what specific fundraiser it is. Just put fundraisers. It's important for the committee to see how you get your money because that helps them determine. That's one of the things they look at for financial need. So we want to know everywhere your money comes from.
Another question, do we include other grants received in other as well?
Yes. Any kind of revenue you get that supports your fire department, you should put it there. If it's not tax revenue. So if you, but you'll see that it's either restricted or unrestricted. So if you're getting a grant for something specific, if that's all you can use it on, you would put restricted on that, the amount.
Other questions, please ask away if you'd like, or put them in the chat room. I'm still monitoring that as well. We have another question. Can shipping be included in proposal? It's not installation, but just shipping of the product.
Hang on just a second, let me check. Okay, in each of the categories, personal infection control items, EMS emergency response, firefighter equipment, vehicle rescue, shipping and freight for any awarded item is allowed. It's tier 1.
Just make a point here about tier 1 and tier 2. Well, it's on my mind. So in some applications, some of you ask for both tier 1 and tier 2 items. And more than likely, you're only going to get approved for the tier 1 items. So if you get a grant award and you've requested both tiers, you really need to pay attention to what your award actually is for. Because just because you asked for that specific item on the application doesn't mean that that item is necessarily approved if your grant application is approved.
That's a great point, Ronnie. When we go to do closeout at the end of the year after you've purchased your items and submitted your expenditure report and your cancel check and your invoices, we do look to make sure that you're only purchasing products that you were approved for. And typically tier 2 products do not get approved. So Ronnie is correct, and pay very close attention on your expenditure report when we send that to you as to what products you were approved for.
Because we will ask you to repay the money.
We have about 3 or 4 more minutes here. So if you guys have any extra questions, please feel free to post those in the chat. Or again, we have a couple more sessions coming up over the next couple of weeks. Our folks are always great about answering questions through emails as well. And we really appreciate everybody here joining us today. But again, I'll leave this open for you guys here for another couple minutes for any other questions. So please feel free to either unmute yourself or you can ask the question in the chat room. A couple minutes left, folks. It's almost 11 o'clock. Does anybody else have anything you guys want to add from the OSFM to folks that are on the call?
Thank you to everybody who attended today. And if you have any questions, please let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. If you got any questions, reach out, either emails or phone call or whatever. We want to help as much as possible.
And just a reminder to not wait until the week before the grant is due, because if there are any questions, if you do have anything and you're sending something incomplete, then, we've had departments do that where they just try to hit the deadline, submit something incomplete, and then follow up with a completed application, and we cannot accept it after the grant application is closed. So any questions, please try to reach out as soon as you can.
not seeing any additional questions. And with that, are you guys good with us ending this?
I think so.
All right. Well,
Thank
thank
you,
you
everybody.
guys.
Hang
Well,
hang on. Dan Wood says he didn't. Dan Wood says he didn't hear the shipping answer. Yes, you can include shipping, Dan.
Dan says thank you. Sorry, I just now saw that pop up on my screen. All right. Well, everybody have a great day. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll hope to see you guys soon, and good luck on your applications. Have a great day, everyone.